In today's lecture, we will be looking at employment rents and the labor discipline model. We will be doing this to answer one question: why do you work at work? Or the reverse, why do you not work when you are at work? There are many reasons for persons working while they are at work, and it all boils down to employment rents. Workers put in effort on the job because they have some sort of intrinsic benefits for doing a job well. Workers may also put in effort on the job because they care about their co-workers and their clients. Alternatively, workers put in effort because they are grateful to their employers for giving them a job, or the motivation for most of us for putting in effort is we do not want to get fired. Slacking employees fear losing their jobs because owners have the right to fire workers, and wages that they get from their job usually exceeds what workers are willing to accept. We can therefore define employment rents to include lost income while searching for a new job, or loss of firm-specific assets, lack of health insurance in some countries. So all of these things that we get while we are on the job, we group them into what we call employment rents, and also the social stigma associated with unemployment. So employment rents are those benefits that you get from having a job. In the previous slide, we saw that slacking employees fear losing their jobs because wages exceed what workers are willing to accept. But what happens if workers are paid the minimum wage that they are willing to accept? When workers are paid the lowest wage they are willing to accept, they are actually indifferent between keeping and losing their job. Employers have no power over workers. When workers are, however, paid more than they're willing to accept, workers receive employment rents. Workers are less likely to quit their job, reducing turnover and recruitment training costs. And employers exercise power over workers by implicitly or explicitly threatening to fire them. We therefore see that employment rents can benefit owners and managers. Employment rents benefits owners and managers because the employee is more likely to stay with the firm, and also they can threaten to fire the worker. We will now examine an example of employment rents using Maria, who is employed at a particular firm and earning hourly wages. Before we get into the determinants of employment rent, let's first talk about what we mean when we say employment rent. Employment rent can be considered as the net cost of job loss, meaning how much you would lose if you were to lose your job today. To find this out, we need to weigh up all the benefits of having a job versus the cost of working. This implies that there are actually some costs of working. The costs of working include disutility of work. This is because employees must spend time doing things that they would prefer not to do. Cost of working also includes the cost of traveling to work every day. In this model that we're meeting, we'll assume that the only cost of working is the disutility of work. Maria's hourly employment rent depends on her wage, which is $12 per hour, and this is represented by the blue line in the graph. So this $12 per hour is what Maria gets should she not lose her job today. Maria's hourly employment rent also depends on her disutility of work, which is the cost of working. This is represented by the blue dashed line. Maria's net utility per hour is therefore her $12 per hour that she would get on the job minus her $2 per hour disutility, which is a total of $10 per hour, and that is her hourly employment rent. Maria's total employment rent further depends on the total number of hours per week that she will be working, and also the number of weeks that it would take her to find another job if she were to get fired. Maria's total employment rent is therefore $10 per hour times 35 hours per week times the 44 weeks that she would be without a job if she got fired. And that totals the $15,400 and is represented by the blue shaded area in the graph. In this simple scenario, we have assumed that if Maria were to get fired today, she would not get any other benefits. She would just be sitting at home, unemployed, and not get any money at all. But what if Maria actually got unemployment benefits if she were to get fired? This would change Maria's employment rent. If Maria were to get unemployment benefits if she were fired, we will now have a smaller area representing employment rents. So as shown by the figure, if Maria were to get fired, she would get unemployment benefits of $6. We could also look at unemployment benefits as assistance from family or friends. So you might not have to get unemployment benefits from the government. You can also get benefits from your family or friends. Suppose that she receives unemployment benefits of $6 per hour. This is called her reservation wage. Your reservation wage is how much you would get from your next best alternative. If Maria were to get fired, her next best alternative would be unemployment benefits, and this is $6 per hour. Maria's net utility per hour is going to change. Her net utility is her $12 per hour that she would get on the job, minus her reservation wage, and minus her disutility of effort. Maria's net utility per hour is therefore now $4 per hour. As we said before, Maria's total employment rent also depends on the total number of hours per week that she would work and the total number of weeks she would be unemployed if she got fired. Let's assume that those are the same as before. So if Maria got fired, she would be unemployed for 44 weeks, and Maria currently works 35 hours per week. Maria's new employment rent, given unemployment benefits or her reservation wage, is now $6,160 and is represented by the smaller blue area in the graph. What if Maria only receives unemployment benefits for 26 weeks? What would happen to Maria's employment rent if she only received unemployment benefits for 26 weeks? Would it increase or would it decrease? As we probably clearly see right now, if Maria's unemployment benefits only lasted for 26 weeks out of the 44 weeks that she would be unemployed, Maria's employment rate would actually increase. This scenario in which Maria would only get unemployment benefits for 26 out of the 44 weeks that she would be unemployed if she got fired is very relevant. Unemployment insurance in Colorado is such that it covers most workers who are laid off, not fired for cause, but it only pays workers about half of their hourly wage and provides benefits for up to 26 weeks. We can see that given this scenario, our employment rents would be much higher. How large is your employment rent? If you were fired today, how much worse off would you be? How do we come up with employment rents estimates? Measuring employment rents is hard because unemployed workers have different abilities and skills than employed workers. And if unemployed were employed, they would earn different wages on average. So coming up with one estimate of employment rents for a large group of workers is actually very difficult. A mass layoff provides a natural experimental estimate on employment rents since all workers lose their jobs. A study followed over 9,000 workers laid off in Pennsylvania in 1982, and it was seen that before being laid off, workers earn an average of $50,000. 4 years later, these workers who had found new jobs were earning on average $37,000, and this suggests an average employment rent of at least $52,000. However, some of the laid-off workers probably lost employment rents in the 100,000s. This illustrates the difficulty of coming up with one single measure of employment rents. Now that we have examined employment rents, now let's turn our attention to the labor discipline model. We model how employers interact with workers as a two-stage game. Remember that a game is a description of a social interaction. This includes a list of players, the strategies they can adopt, and the order in which the players choose their actions. Here in the labor discipline model, we have player 1, which is the employer, and the employer chooses the wage, and player 2, the worker, who chooses their work effort. The employer sets the wage to acquire effort at the lowest possible cost and also to maximize profits subject to the worker's best response function. The worker puts in a level of effort that balances the benefit of keeping their job against the disutility of effort. The model that we're about to meet describes the wage, effort, profit, and employment rent at the Nash equilibrium. Let's start by analyzing the labor discipline model from the employee's perspective. Maria is an employee at a particular firm. Maria's effort can vary between 0 and 1, and we can look at this as the proportion of each hour that she spends working diligently. This implies that the maximum possible effort for Maria is 1. Maria will choose to put in more effort at higher wages. Her best response function therefore shows that at $6 per hour, she will not put in any effort, so her effort will be 0. If her wage increases to $12 per hour, Maria will put in effort equal to 0.5. And if her wage increases to $24 per hour, she will put in effort equal to 0.8. This implies that there is a positive relationship between hourly wages and effort per hour. The higher Maria's hourly wage, the more effort she will put in. Looking at this best response function, we know that the shape of this graph is concave. The best response function is concave, so an extra $1 per hour increases effort more if the wage is $12 per hour than if it were $24 per hour. The slope of the best response function is the employer's marginal rate of transformation of wages into effort. So the slope of the best response function, which can be considered as a feasible frontier, is the employer's marginal rate of transformation of wage into effort, or the MRT. Let's now examine the labor discipline model from the employer's perspective. We know that the employer's objective is to get the most effort at the lowest possible cost. The profit maximizing firms seek to minimize the cost of inputs. These inputs could be kilowatt hours or work effort. So the goal of the profit maximizing firm in this scenario is to minimize the cost of work effort. Firms minimize the cost of work effort by maximizing the effort per dollar. Isocost curves show all the effort and wage combinations that generate the same profit. So on this graph, we have three separate isocost curves. Each isocost curve gives combinations of wages and effort that generate the same profit. The slope of each curve is equal to the employer's marginal rate of substitution, or the employer's MRS. At B, the effort per dollar is equal to 0.7 divided by 10, or 0.07. At A, the effort per hour is 0.6 divided by 13, or 0.046. Firms seek a feasible wage-effort combination with the highest possible effort per dollar. So if we were to choose between point B or point A, firms would prefer point B because that gives the higher effort per dollar. In other words, steeper isoprofit curves are preferred. Let's now put these two pieces together to create our labor discipline model. As we said, the labor discipline model can be considered as a sequential game where the employer offers a wage and the employee chooses effort based on his or her best response function. Ideally, the employer wants to be on the highest or the steepest isoprofit curve. The steeper the isoprofit curve, the lower the cost of effort. The employer chooses his profit maximizing wage. At $7 per hour, the MRT is greater than the MRS. That is, the slope of the worker's best response curve is greater than the slope of the employer's isoprofit. At $10 per hour, the MRT is also greater than the MRS. At $12 per hour, the MRT is equal to the MRS. As such, A maximizes profits. The employer pays $12 per hour, and the employee, Maria, puts in 0.5 effort per hour. The effort per dollar is 0.5 divided by 12, or 0.042. There is no feasible combination with a higher effort per dollar. The wage of $12 per hour is an efficiency wage because it maximizes effort per dollar. The employer, as we said before, would like to be on the steepest possible isocost, but it is infeasible. The key characteristics of a labor discipline model are: there is an equilibrium wage and effort level. This equilibrium wage and effort level is determined by where the slopes of the worker's best response curve and the employer's isocost curve meet. That is where the MRS is equal to the MRT. Workers receive employment rents, so it is in their self-interest to provide effort. Given that they are employment rents, employers have power over workers because they can threaten job loss. And finally, the labor market is characterized by involuntary unemployment. That means that there are people who would want to work but cannot work because they can't find a job. If this wasn't the case, there would be no employment rents. This week, you will be looking at labor discipline in your homework 2.3. Please attempt homework 2.3 before recitation.